Rose. Hello, Rose. Can you help with the volume? Let's get them to tell us when they're here. I need you to do this. Rose, I need you to do this. Beth, can you stay there? Just stay there. Tell when you can hear it easily. Tell us when you can hear it easily. Can you hear now? A little more? Yeah. How about now? That's good. How about this one? That's funny because I can't see you over there. Hi everybody, it's not the first Friday of the month, it's the second. And we're at the Firefly Coffee House. We've moved our open mic to the second Friday because last weekend was Labor Day. I hope everybody had a really nice time. This is the Oregon Area Progressives Community Open Mic, and tonight we have several guests who are with us to talk about the upcoming teacher compensation referendum that will be on the ballot in November. We have kind of a sparse crowd, which is not unexpected because we're on an off night, but we are being filmed by the local cable network, so it will reach a wider audience. So tonight we have with us, I'll start all the way on my left, your right, we have Steve Zock, who is president of the Oregon School District Board of Education. We have Gina Jonan, who is the HR director and the inside counsel for the school district. We have Nate Johnson, who is a science teacher at the high school, coaches Science Olympiad and volleyball, and is a board member, no, not volleyball. Ultimate Frisbee, sorry. There are some similarities. You have to be very agile. And as my lip will protest that if you miss a Frisbee and it hits you in the lip, you have to check your teeth first to make sure they're not loose. Happened to me just last week. Anyway, Nate Johnson is a member of the board of the Oregon Education Association, the Teachers Union, and finally, Dr. Brian Bussler, who is head of, he is our school superintendent for the Oregon School District. They will be here to explain to us what is in the referendum, and then we'll be open for questions. So again, thank you so much for coming out tonight, and please listen carefully and be ready with your questions. The other thing to let you know that if you would like to speak, there are slips. We don't have our printed ones. Our regular person for that is not here this evening, and so we're making do. If you would like to speak tonight, please fill out one of the slips that Nancy is holding up with your name what you'd like to talk about. Limit your comments to 3 minutes, and somebody will get them to me, and you'll be on the agenda after the questions. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We'll be talking a little bit more about events that we have coming up, and I think that's it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand that microphone, which is better, over to whoever's starting. Nate is starting.
All right, I guess I'll start with just a little brief foundation for why are we here with the referendum, which is, when we look at education, we've had the conversations as part of visioning in the Oregon School District of saying, what does quality education look like? What are the components of that quality education? And one of the primary components of quality education is a quality educator, a quality teacher in that classroom. And to that end, we want to ensure that we're recruiting, retaining, developing, and supporting quality educators in our district. And we're in a place in the state right now where education is at a challenging point. School district budgets are capped, and we have to find a way to balance those budgets under the caps. And right now, teachers have been making a lot of sacrifices to do that. I personally am in my 6th year of teaching, and I'm making a hair above our minimum salary in the district. And as our plan looks like currently, I can expect raises that are a little bit above the cost of living for the rest of my career in terms of the pathways that we have right now. So I can expect to be making essentially a beginning teacher salary for my whole career. And so this is not kind of a sustainable position to be in right now. And so in Oregon, we need to look at and say, do we want to recruit teachers who after 5 years are saying, do I need to be looking at another district? Do I need to be looking at another profession in order to actually sustain my career? And I will say we invest in those first 5 years, in the first 10 years, in getting these teachers to the point where they are professionals, where they are ready to say, I'm going to mentor other teachers, I'm going to be a collaborator and on teams and really developing education in Oregon, when they're really ready to contribute a lot to the district, is that when they're headed out the door. And so we've really had this process over the last 3 years of looking and saying, how do we recruit, retain, and develop quality teachers? And that's where we're at. And this is the answer that has come forward out of collaboration between teachers, administration, the community, and the school board of saying, here's a plan that we really think can recruit, retain, and develop teachers. And that's the ask we have right now. To say, let's keep Oregon strong, let's support a strong community. The schools are a core of a community, and let's keep Oregon strong by recruiting, retaining, and developing quality teachers. And I'll leave it at that for myself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Bussler. I'm the superintendent of schools in the Oregon School District. I'm starting my 11th year in Oregon and my 31st year in public education. I happen to come from a public education family. My wife is a school social worker / school counselor in a neighboring district, and just as myself, she spent her career in public education. You'll sense from all 4 of us as speakers the pride that we have in the Oregon School District. And I'll start with a little bit of a story. Well, first I'll tell you what we're going to walk through. I'm going to be doing most of the speaking, walking through a PowerPoint presentation because Gina Jonan, our HR director and in-house counsel, has lost her voice from being in too many meetings, and her voice is so important to us that we're going to save it so she can answer some questions. Then Steve Zock, our longstanding school board member. He's working on his 18th year as a school board member in the Oregon School District. Steve also happens to be an Oregon graduate. He's going to share sort of the board perspective on this. As a family, our family's had the opportunity with our youngest son to go through all levels in the Oregon School District. When we moved, he was an elementary student. He had a great elementary experience. Then he went off to RCI for 2 years, had a great experience at RCI, followed by 2 years at the middle school, which was also a great experience, and then 4 years at Oregon High School. I think everyone in the audience knows the key to having students be successful in school is a great teacher. And that's really what this compensation plan is all about. But the compensation plan also fits into something a little bigger. And that item that's a little bigger is on my left. And that's the what we value statements. As I look in the audience, I know several of you participated in our visioning conference in 2015. These were ideas that we distilled from our visioning conference, what the community told us, and we also had some very special guests. We had a group, a stage full of students, and the students told us about their experience in the Oregon School District, and this isn't going to surprise you, but it lays the groundwork for why our teacher compensation plan is so important. When we ask students, tell us about the most important experiences that you have in school, the first thing that they said was a relational response. We are successful when we have great teachers that build relationships with us. So it all came down to the relational part of school. We have 4,000 students in our district. Every one of us can't connect with all 4,000, but every one of us can build a strong relationship with 1, 2, in some cases, an entire classroom of students. That's really the focus point of our teacher compensation referendum. We have 2 handouts for you tonight. The first handout is a board paper, and it's called The Path Forward, and it's a trifold. Featured on the front of the handout is our what we value statements. And then secondly, you'll notice it's orange. You know, it's Friday night, we have football tonight, so we have an orange 2-page informational sheet. For those of you that come to some of our meetings, you will get this informational sheet a few times. I want to point out a couple of items on the apple. You notice at the center of the apple, and what we heard at our visioning conference, when over 130 plus community members came, was something unique to our district. We focus on the whole child. And if you go clockwise around this, you'll notice relevant and empowering learning experiences is an important support for the whole child. Educational equity. We know some of our students struggle, and we want to be a district where all students really means all students. That means every student, all 4,000, have the opportunity for success. Strong family and community partnerships. That's something that's very unique in the Oregon School District. When my son was in 3rd or 4th grade, and my wife and I were signing up to be parent helpers, we were parent helper number 26 and parent helper number 27. By the time the open house was over, there were almost 40 parent helpers in a class where there were 22 3rd graders. That was very unique for me because I came from a district where there were 2, 3, or 4. My wife and I went to the teacher and said, just give us something really easy to do. With this many people, you're going to go crazy with 40-some helpers. Then on the top, caring and professional educators. That's what tonight's conversation is about. And you'll notice this is a puzzle. We take any one of these puzzle pieces out, we have an incomplete picture of our school district. And we're focused on the caring and professional educators for our upcoming referendum. It's probably worth taking that first sentence and just reading that and letting that soak in. I think most of you can see it. In essence, it's about our proud tradition of how we educate students, the opportunity we offer to all kids, which is really unique, and what a meaningful education is all about. And look at that last sentence. The most significant factor in student achievement is an effective educator. That's what our November 8th referendum is going to focus on. Oftentimes when we're coming up with a referendum, I will hear, and I guess I will hear it again at the end of October, what do you mean? I haven't heard about this before. Where did this come from? So we put a timeline in to help share our message. We've been working on this since January of 2013. And this wasn't a project that was started by an administrator, or started by a school board member, or started by a teacher. It was done in a collaborative basis. We formed a committee, we studied, we reviewed, we looked at practices from across the state, across the county, and now we're at that point where the community members will have an opportunity to vote on this important proposal. In spring of 2015, we conducted an education compensation survey. We had just under 1,000 responses, which I would say is about typical. Most of the survey experts, which I am not a survey expert, would say once you hit 500 surveys, they'll start to repeat themselves. So we felt we had a really good response rate. The next bullet, 66% of our parents and 46% of our non-parents agreed with the statement, I believe educator compensation in the Oregon School District should be increased. We were super encouraged by that. We also asked a question, at what level, at that point, our referendum amount was around $3 million, and that's where we found a concern. And the concern was about 42% of parents said, we support it at $3 million of taxes. Only about 22% of non-parents said they would support it at that level. And remember, the typical ratio in most school districts, 70% of community members do not have children in school, 30% of community members have kids in school. So our survey person said our pass rate's probably about 32% at that point. And you know we need a 50% pass rate. We also learned through the survey that A, the plan was too expensive. We needed an accountability component, and we needed more information in terms of why we need the plan. There's no surprise that there's 4 words at the bottom of every PowerPoint slide, and the 4 words are listening, planning, and responding responsibly. That's what our committee has done since 2013. That's what the board has done in getting prepared for this proposal. The committee focus. Gina would make this much more exciting because she was on the committee in 2013.
She's got more pizzazz.
She's full of pizzazz. 4 main things that the committee focused on, and you heard Nathan mention it already: retaining, attracting, and developing the best possible educators for every classroom in the Oregon School District. A professional accountability focus, making it affordable for taxpayers, we heard that through the survey, and then making it financially sustainable so we don't start something and then have to come back and ask for more money at a later point. The new educator compensation plan, these are some components that are critical, sort of key components to it. First, we've required professional development programs to design to improve our ability to meet all students in their achievement. Secondly, the accountability measures through approved learning sequences that all of our teachers will participate in, and evaluations that will be, in essence, conducted by our school principals in a collaborative way. Also, we want to add 5 contract days to all educators in the Oregon School District. And by educators, I mean those that have a teaching contract. No change to my contract. No change to Gina's contract. Our contracts, administrative contracts and support staff contracts, are not part of this referendum. We know we need a competitive salary because things have changed even in Dane County. If Gina were speaking, she would talk about the teachers that come to us after we've offered them a salary, and they negotiate with us because they have 2 or 3 other districts they're negotiating. That's something very, very new for us. Not something that was here 10 years ago. I already mentioned the financial sustainability because we know we really get one opportunity with a referendum vote and not an opportunity to come back over and over again. And hopefully by now you've seen the big picture of how caring and professional educators fit within the apple and fit within what we value to provide the best education for students. A question we often hear is, how will a teacher, new or a current teacher on staff, work their way through our compensation plan? There are really 2 main pieces. First, the compensation plan contains 4 different professional levels. An advancement in the compensation level is based on 4 main things. A teacher's degree attainment, whether they have a bachelor's, a master's, or a national board certification, which is a very extensive program through the federal government that lasts for a 10-year period. Also, professional development sequences. Dr. Leslie Bergstrom, our former RCI principal, is now our Director of Instruction and Student Achievement, and she works with a group of teachers as well as administrators to identify and develop professional development sequences for everyone. Also, performance evaluation is a piece. That was part of the accountability piece that we heard in the survey in 2015. And then lastly, I think everyone knows this, we are all licensed by the state of Wisconsin. So there's a requirement for my job, a requirement for Gina's job, and all teachers' jobs that we have a license in good standing with the state. So why is a plan necessary? Why do we have to do this? Nathan mentioned some of the challenges with school funding. School funding has been a huge challenge for us since 2010. In fact, it's been a challenge for us long before 2010, but Act 10 really put a cramp on our school funding system. It also put a cramp on our collective bargaining contracts that were in place. Prior to 2010, we had 7 collective bargaining agreements in the district. Since 2011, all Dane County school districts, with the exception of us, have adopted a new compensation model. We think we're really close to having the best model in Dane County because we have wide and broad teacher support for it. We believe we have wide and broad community support for it as well. We also know that a teacher shortage is looming. It's not only looming in the northern part of the state, it's looming in the southern part of the state and even in Dane County. We know from research that university and college teaching programs are down over 28% since 2008, 2009. We also know 4,900, almost 5,000 teachers have left the profession since 2013. And here's the interesting statistic. Half of those teachers, half of those 5,000 teachers that have left the field were under the age of 50. And sometimes people would suggest, well, those were all individuals that were retiring. No, those were individuals that were under the age of 50 and engaged in teaching in our community. That's a loss that we're never going to be able to bounce back from as a state and as a community. A couple of other comments on the November 8th referendum. State revenue caps have really strangleholded our ability to raise funds. And that I don't mean that to be complaining. I don't mean that to be whining. I just want to lay that piece of factual information out. We have struggled with state revenue caps. I'll admit we haven't struggled as much as some northern Wisconsin schools that had declining enrollment, but we still struggled because student enrollment is what provides the resources for us to have a budget that we can do everything that parents want us to do. While we've grown in Oregon, we haven't grown as fast as some of our neighboring districts. The Middleton Cross Plains District, for example, grew 300 students. 300, I can barely get it out of my mouth. 300 students in a year, that's an entire school. We don't have capacity to grow that fast. We want to grow a little bit, but at a right rate, and we also want a state funding system that will support us over time. In terms of what the referendum looks like, we are asking for $1.5 million of recurring taxpayer money. And by recurring taxpayer money, that's money that goes on, not for just a 5-year period or for a 3-year period, but permanently. You might have heard me say before, our total compensation plan is about $3 million. We knew our pass rate at $3 million was about 32%. So we knew we had to become creative to fund a plan that's right around $3 million. And the creative part is we talked to our teachers, we talked to our teachers union, and we said we believe we could phase this in over time, over a 3-year period, if we use some of our current budget monies, some of our current salary and benefit monies that we're expecting over the next 3 years, plus we've had some budget savings in a couple of areas. One area where we've had budget savings is the same area that you all have had budget savings, whether it's fuel, utilities, and energy expenses. We have some of that money. We're going to reallocate some of those funds so that we can meet that $3 million cap. Another piece that we will be refunding some money, we do a lot of refinancing. And we have an opportunity to refinance a loan with the state of Wisconsin that we refinanced from 8% to 3%, and we only have 5 years left on that loan. We can refinance that and open up some additional funds so we can meet that $3 million total impact. We did a focus group a couple of weeks ago, and as we were explaining this, a community member raised their hand and said, well, that's sort of like a match. You're taking some money out of your existing budget, and you're asking the community for $1.5 million. This particular community member thought that was a great idea. In terms of what will that cost each taxpayer, we have this small chart. We didn't go into a lot of detail. Whenever we look at taxpayer impact, we usually talk in $100,000 worth of value. $100,000 worth of value, the annual impact's around $45. Actually, the annual impact's just a little more than that, but we're in a really fortunate situation this year with receiving some more state aid from the state based on last year's budget, and we can't spend that additional state aid. It lowers our property taxes, so the net effect is around $45 on a $100,000 home. Our research on what's the average home in the Oregon School District, that value is around $250,000. So you can see the annual impact on that particular property would be around $110. And if we look at it as a monthly impact, about $10. Here's the ballot question, and I'm really pleased with how our board and legal counsel put together our ballot question. This is the question that residents will have the opportunity to vote on November 8th, and we did it the old-fashioned way. A yes is a yes.
Yes.
Because sometimes it can be confusing where you have to vote no in order to make it an affirmative vote. But this is a question, I'll read just a couple of pieces to you. Shall the Oregon School District exceed the revenue limit by $1.5 million a year for recurring? Again, the notion of recurring means it goes on forever. For the public purpose of paying employee compensation for teachers and other educational staff. That's the question that will be on the ballot. We're probably going to be making over 50 to 60 different presentations. You're going to hear a lot of information about this upcoming referendum. This is our first major informational piece. If you come to more meetings, you will see this piece of information again. Many of the items that are on the slides we lifted right off of here. We also know the best part of these kind of conversations are questions that you all have. But before we get to those questions, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Zock, our board president, to give you a perspective from our school board.
Thanks, Brian. I want to acknowledge the presence of two of my fellow board members. Charlie Uphoff is here, and Barb Beanie's here somewhere. There you are. Hey, Barb. Real briefly, my role is a little bit different than Brian, or I legally could be a little different than Brian because I can advocate where he's got to give facts, and so I want to advocate for this. Since 2011, 2012, we've been working on this. We knew we had to do this with the salary schedule going away, and so we worked to create a committee that was comprised of teachers, administrators, and board members to work on the successor plan. At the same time we did that, we started to begin our next phase of visioning work in terms of our strategic plan as a district. Monday night, the board will be voting on a position paper that's been developed collaboratively through a lot of sources that sets forth our vision of the district educationally over the next 5 to 10 years. This would be the focal point of that. I anticipate that that will pass. A lot of work's been done on that. If you've been watching our board over the years, you know that we're 7 very different people and come from different sources. We don't always agree on stuff. We passed the teacher referendum resolution by a 7-0 vote. That should tell you something. And that has been the work of collaborative work with the committee coming forward with a recommendation that was administrators, teachers, and board members coming to us. We had focus groups involved in looking at that, and then the board looked at it together, and the fact that, and we worked with our administrators on it. The fact that all of us have looked at this and worked on it for a period of 3 years and unanimously are in support of that should tell this community something when you have that wide range of people on board and administration saying this really meets our needs, and in my view it does, and I support it entirely and fully. I'm a lawyer. I work with school districts across the state since 2011. I've been particularly working with districts and watching teacher compensation plans as they develop. There have been times when I've been frustrated by the pace that we've gone in developing this, and as Brian said, we're the last district in the county to move toward this. At this point, I'm glad we did, because we have, in my view, by far the best compensation plan, not only in Dane County, but the state. And I can say that with my whole heart, and having studied this around there. This meshes, as we were moving through our visioning process to get to this, as will be in our paper, that was walking through one track, and the teacher comp plan was working through their committee. We recognized along the way that they were starting to dovetail, and that the values that were being articulated through our visioning and through our work with the community, and particularly that conference last summer, came up with these values, and foremost on those was caring and professional educators. And that started to tie in directly with the teacher comp plan, because the comp plan that was starting to come up was based upon caring and professional educators. If you look at comp plans around the state, they're compliance models. We take a certain amount of credits, you gather points, and you do that sort of stuff, and you comply with the requirements. Our plan is a professional model. And when we saw that coming out of the committee that Gina chaired, that this is a professional model based upon developing teachers through professional development, working with their administrator and developing a plan, evaluating and providing development opportunities that dovetailed exactly with what we were seeing in our visioning process, and you'll see in our paper that talks about children and our students developing their plans and having some autonomy, mastery, and purpose in their education. That's the exact same model that we're finding in our comp plan, and so they're dovetailing well. So from a philosophical standpoint, we're dovetailed. It's a really good plan. The economics of it, the committee got us the report, and this board has worked for the last 3.5 to 4 months really digging into the economics of the plan, trying to make sure that it was affordable and the best plan for this district, because we're not unmindful of the fact that we're asking for taxpayer dollars. Each one of the 7 of us realize that that's a cost of people and an impact. And so we don't take that lightly. And so we wanted to make sure before we made our vote 2 weeks ago to go out and ask the community for money for this plan, that we made sure that we had the best plan and that we looked at the economics carefully. And we have. We've done our due diligence. As Brian showed you, we had a plan that will throw $3 million into teacher compensation. It will deal with the issues that Nathan talked about, where we have 1/3 of our teachers making within a very narrow band at the beginning part of the salary between $40,000 and $45,000. We need to change that, okay? We need to change the fact that in the last 4 years, our teachers are below the CPI because of the restrictions in our funding from the state. We need to get that done. We need to be able to assess and react to the growing private sector model of teacher compensation that's occurring in Dane County, where there are now districts looking at particular teachers and rating, where when we have Gina interviewing new teachers, that they're looking and they're competing against us on different models with other school districts. We have to look at the fact that we used to be in the top 3 or 4 districts in the county in terms of wages by purpose, but as we've gone through with the models, we are now on par with other districts, so that they're competing against us where they used to not compete against us, and where we're actually behind with respect to that group of about 30 to 40% of our teachers. We're behind in that area. And so we need to address that, and that means we have to add more money into it. We're not going to get it from the state, okay? But we looked hard at our budget to try to find $1.5 million, and we've done it. As Brian said, one of those is taking money from our fund balance so that we could pay off that loan for a period of 6 years when it ended, to create a line item to go through there. So we're looking at that because we've had the ability to create some savings over the years to do that. We have also looked at other areas of our budget, so we've got $1.5 million to do that. So we're contributing through our annual operating budget 1.5. We're tapped out in terms of looking at that, and that's why we need to go to the community with a really good plan to ask for $45 per 100,000. I have the ability to interact with a lot of board members in the county, a lot of superintendents through my work. They've heard about this. And they ask me to describe a little bit more about it. And they go, wow, that's a really good plan. And then they say, how much money are you putting into the teacher comp program here? And I tell them what's going on to our schedule. The next question is, how much is it going to cost? Because they're thinking a really big dollar. When I tell them 45 per 100,000, they go, wow. You know, in the relative concept, understanding it's an ask for more, they say that's a really good plan. It's affordable in that context to get what you're going to get. When this passes, you know, we will set Oregon up for the future for our districts. We will be able to attract, develop, and retain the best teachers in the county and in the state. And that's what we want to do. Last year, Oregon had a 99% graduation rate. We think it's going to be 100. We're working on those. No, we want to keep that. And that's what this referendum is about, because all of our students deserve the best education here, and this plan does it, and this referendum will get us there. Thank you.
At this point, we'd like to allow the audience to ask questions. So Nancy will bring this microphone around, and the folks up here, whoever feels best able to answer, will address those questions. So is there anyone at this point who has a question? Marilyn, and then Charlie.
Hi, I'm Marilyn McDowell, Village of Oregon resident. My question is about advertising information out to the school district residents. How is that going to be handled? Will you be having a condensed one of these in the Observer and all around town to every darn public group and private group that you can find, and other meetings? Dr. Bustler mentioned other gatherings, so what about those two?
Okay, the district's role in this can only be providing information and not advocacy, but
Right.
you will see these out. There will be a mailing out to district residents. We will have, we're looking at some community meetings in the future with that. We've got some scheduled with civic groups around. We're going to be in the Observer doing stuff. So the district will be, there will be a web page posted next week with information regarding this. So we've got a whole lot of different sources where we're going to be providing information. In addition, there's a YES committee that's being formed for advocacy purposes. We're meeting Wednesday night at 7:30 at State Bank across Plains, if you would like to join that. But you will be seeing a plan coming from the YES committee to advocate on behalf of this plan.
I had an opportunity and privilege of participating in the compensation task force, and I'm very supportive of this proposal being put forward, but I have run into a question which I thought I would address to you as well. Some concern expressed that the Oregon School District and a lot of districts, frankly, are going to referendum to support essentially costs of maintaining quality education. And the concern that was raised was, are we taking the state off the hook? And what things might be done to make sure that the contribution from the state of Wisconsin to support public education remains strong or grows stronger.
Charles, is this on? There, now it's on. I believe public schools are taking the state off the hook from a state funding standpoint. I was at a meeting today with fellow Dane County superintendents, and we talked about the fact that on the November 8th ballot is $1.3 billion of school projects and or referendums. You heard me right, 1.3 billion. And we've been told when we have conversations with legislatures that if we need additional funds, we need to ask our local community. And to the tune of 1.3 billion, local communities are being asked to fund what historically has been funded at the state level.
I just want to add to that from a teacher's perspective that I see these students in my classroom every day, and I'm conflicted over that question because I want to make sure that my students have the best education possible, whatever means we need to find for that, whether it's the state or locally. And so I want to make sure that my students in my classroom do get the education that they deserve, but I also do recognize that there's other places in the state where there's far more difficulties in those students getting that education. So on a local level, at some point, the best we can do is make sure our students in our community are getting the education they deserve.
And Charlie, as you know, when we vote as board members, our primary question is what's best for the kids. And while we see what's going on at the Capitol and the negative impact it has on local public education, we still have to do what's right for our students, and this is right for our students and their community members. And This district, over the 40-plus years that I've lived here, has always done the right thing and supported the school districts, or supported the students.
I would just add, this really is an opportunity for people to talk to their legislator and let them know that public education is important.
Question here.
Nate, you made a comment that was pretty heavy, and it really caught my attention. You said that as long as we don't pass this referendum, that as long as you're a teacher here for your entire career, which I hope is a long time, you won't see a salary increase. I heard that right. Did I hear that right?
Essentially,
Explain to me the mechanics of it so I can explain that to others,
In
because
the
that's a
current-
stunning statement.
in the current system that we have, right now, our salary increases as teachers have been, the district has been great in finding the money that we can under the current system, and that in recent years, the educators have gotten a cost of living raise, a CPI raise, plus a little supplemental raise. So what that looks like then is whatever stage in your career you're at least a little bit more than keeping up with the cost of living.
Drinking water.
Yep, and so if you enter the system as a beginning teacher, that means you're at least keeping up with what a beginning teacher's salary looks like. However, if you're keeping up with what a beginning teacher's salary looks like for 30 years of your career, 30 years into your career, you're making a beginning teacher's salary. And that's essentially, under our current system, what we're looking at is that I can envision with where we're at without a change, that 30 years into my career, I would essentially be making a beginning teacher's salary. That in many other professions, you get a promotion, you get to that next step, and in previous iterations of teacher compensation, there's been a salary schedule. You progress across the salary schedule. Whereas in our current system, it's wherever you're at, you're getting a cost of living and maybe a little bit more. And I will honestly admit that I've gone to Gina in Human Resources and said, you know what, I can leave to another district and get a pay increase, but there's no path forward to get a pay increase here.
So you're basically saying, if I paraphrase this correctly, that because it's just COLA, you're staying at the entry level or whatever level you're at. Now, if you factor in the increase in health insurance premiums and a larger contribution to your retirement, is it a fair statement to say publicly that teachers in the Oregon School District have suffered an annual net loss?
I would certainly say, if you look at teachers who were here prior to Act 10, that their income overall, their overall compensation has actually stagnated, or in fact, as of the cut of Act 10, possibly decreased a moderate amount.
Steve, how would you make that statement so that it's accurate?
From January, measuring January 1, 2011 through December 31st, 2015, measuring the wage increases that we've given the COLA plus versus the CPI over that time, and factoring in the 5.8% contribution that teachers were required to give as part of Act 10, the teachers have actually suffered a 3% loss of income during that period of time. So they're below water over those 4 years, and so that's one of those things. That doesn't even take into account health insurance increases.
Everyone can relate to that. I mean, that's a stunning statement you make.
You know, that, and the other thing that's gone on, the reason why Nate's peers, when he entered into the district, are where they're at is because the competition for beginning teacher salaries, they've moved from 32 to 40,000 since Act 10 hit, and so while to compete for new teachers, we've had to raise our dollar entry-level salary. We haven't been able to correspondingly ratchet up the salary schedule to move those in Nate's class up, and so that's why we have 1/3 to maybe 40% of our teachers in a real compressed area, which Nate calls as the entry-level area that we're just moving up. And what the plan does is it creates career ladders that distinguishes between those groups, and so it's really beneficial in that standpoint.
Hi everyone, it's really hard for me to sit here and not say anything, so I apologize, maybe Brian can interpret for me, but the other thing that I wanted to add as HR director is I started in August of 2012. And so the district had previously to that settled an 11-12 contract when all the Act 10 litigation was going on. And so just to give you that perspective, that was just 4 years ago, and I can tell you from an HR perspective that the landscape of teacher hiring has drastically changed. When I started in August of 2012, we have typically filled 40 to 50 positions every year in the Oregon School District. It is wonderful that we are so close to UW-Madison, but it does present a challenge for us because a lot of our teachers have spouses or partners that are transient because they're finishing med school or law school or a program and getting other jobs. So when I look that I have to fill 40 to 50 positions every year, in August 2012, not one teacher talked to me about negotiating his or her salary. Okay? Fast forward 4 years, I didn't have one teacher who didn't try to negotiate a salary with me. So, you know, that is a huge change in 4 years. And the other thing that's really changed is that in August of 2012, no one ever called me to ask for a salary schedule. No one even brought it up until I would tell them I'm sending you a contract with this number on it. Now, people call me almost weekly, if not daily, during our peak hiring times and ask me to see the salary schedule before they even apply for a position. So they'll say, oh, I couldn't find it online, or can you email it to me? Or, you know, I'm a teacher and so, what would I make if I came to Oregon? And so, you know, when I hear you, Charles, talk about, you know, should we change things at the state level, I think everyone in the room is open to that, but I'm not sure how that we can wait for things to change at the state level, because I've seen the drastic change, and I fear that we're missing out on applicants, because when they call me and I talk through how our current compensation works, that they're not even in the pool in the first place.
I think Nadine, you're next.
I've got two comments, well, actually 2 questions. But before I say that, one of the things that happened when I was working in nursing is that our salaries became less than what was the new hires, because the employer needed to keep raising the salary for new hires, whereas the experienced long-term nurses were losing money, and yet they were the ones that were training the new staff. My question is, I'm not quite sure, so I just need some clarification. You're talking about this plan is sustainable. Is that meaning then that from now until whenever this additional tax increase will be happening each year for whatever? Or is it time limited? So that's my first question. The other question is, one of the things that I was interested in previously was the creation of foundations, a foundation for the village of Brooklyn, for example. And it seemed like it was an opportunity for long-term members or not so long-term members to contribute to a fund which would then be administered, in this case by the Madison Community Foundation. And it became then an opportunity to have additional funds that could be utilized by, in this case, in my case, the village. And I don't know how those kinds of things work, but I was interested if that has anything to do, if that has any relevance to this continuing and worsening budget funding crisis. I mean, we can't continue to keep doing this. And so anyway, those are my 2 questions.
Nadine, I'll start in reverse order and go on this and go on the foundation question first. We do have a generous foundation in the Oregon School District. The foundation has historically been earmarked for student scholarships. Occasionally, the foundation will provide some additional funds for a classroom teacher's project, but it's really tough to have a foundation large enough that could actually fund salary and benefits. So that, maybe over time, that's a possibility, but right now, it's really student scholarships and some special projects. In terms of the sustainability piece, I hope I was clear on that $1.5 million. That is permanent, and that will continue in future budgets. And the key part is getting it into the budget, because once it's there, the district's going to be able to access that in future years. Otherwise, if it was only there for a year, we could make an adjustment to salaries for 1 year, and then salaries would drop in a future year. The other piece that the committee did and the board built on this concept was let's fund the total cost from day one. And that total cost is the $3 million cost. We will still be subject to the amount of money we get from the state every year for cost of living adjustments, but we'll be able to make a raise to everyone's base salary and get them at a better salary. We still don't have enough money to get them at the salary we would like teachers to be at. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, just, it's $45 per 100,000 each year. It's not cumulative, so year one is 45, the next year it's not 90, and that it's 45, 45, 45, 45, and that gets everybody into the plan. And there will still be some movement in the plan which will be funded. That's only about 1% we calculate, and we're confident that we'll be able to fund that out of our operational budget through growth or state funds. So from our standpoint, it's sustainable. Once we get this passed, we'll be able to have the plan sustain it over a long period of time, so that we're not coming back and coming back and coming back to keep people in the plan. And that's part of what we did over the last 4 months, was to delve into our economics and the dollars of that to make sure that we were on sound financial ground with this plan.
Will the school district then continue to match with another 1.5?
Yes, that is finding not one-term dollars next budget year and then having to go scramble. We found 1.5 forever through our current budget that we'll be able to have. Yeah, and so that's part of the reason why we took a couple months to really work hard at it.
Here's a question here.
Thank you. Ro Parker, Town of Oregon, longtime educator. I continue to work at Madison Area Technical College. I'm interested in the impact of this on what I call specialty topics. And two big things that I've advocated for are tech ed, technical education, as well as foreign language. I've got a bias towards German foreign language and love the program that we have here at Oregon. Could you please comment on the impact of this on specialty type of topics, recruiting those teachers and retaining those teachers? Because in the media I've heard that there would be even more intense recruitment and solicitation for specialty topics where there would seemingly be a smaller pool involved.
We have had some specialty licenses where we've had to really aggressively recruit. And row one that you mentioned was our technology educators. 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, there are very few technology educators that are new to the profession. There were 34 openings 4 years ago, and there were 4 or 5 new graduates. And public schools from across the state were contacting technology education teachers to recruit them to come to their district. The way the state law works, we have an opportunity to approve, the board has the opportunity to approve what's called a supplemental contract, and in those cases with our technology education teachers, we provided supplemental contracts. One of the challenges is when you provide a supplemental contract to a portion of your workforce and not to the other portion of your workforce, it becomes divisive. And it's not something we want to do. But that choice that the board had was really, if we don't offer a supplemental contract, we're going to lose the technology ed teachers, and likely they're going to leave, and we're then going to, if we either shut the program down, or if we replace them, we're going to have to pay the higher market rate. So that, I wish we didn't have to do that, because it's really divisive to a faculty and to a staff. In terms of world language or foreign languages, our board has had great foresight where we teach Spanish at the K-6 level. Our German program is thriving at the middle school and the high school. Our Spanish program is thriving, and some students even take additional classes through online education. But in today's world and today's marketplace, foreign language is just a priority. Everyone really needs to be a dual language speaker, and it will increase. I talk to young teachers or young people that are going into education, and to be dual language certified is such a plus during the interviewing process.
Here's the next question.
I just wrote in by creating the ladders that we have and raising those levels up, we're going to get to a compensation point where they're going to be competitive even within the tech ed or the Spanish spot. So we're not put into the position where, because everybody's so low and they're so specialized, that we have to raise them up. We're going to raise everybody up to that level, so we don't get into what is really a divisive type of situation that we had 2 or 3 years ago.
My question ties in perfectly. You mentioned in your presentation that it covers teachers and other educators. So I was curious who the other educators are that are included as part of this plan.
So it would be people that have traditionally been in the OEA bargaining unit. So not just classroom educators, but also school counselors, library media specialists, and speech and language therapists as well.
Other questions? I see none.
So we really thank you all for being here tonight. I am a newly retired public education participant. I'm a teacher, retired just in June, and as is my habit here, I want to read a poem. I would have shown the video, but I can't get on the internet right now. This is by Michael Josephson. I'm a teacher, I make lives. The topic of education came up and a business executive complained, the problem is with teachers, after all, those who can do, those who can't teach. A man next to him said, I'm a teacher, and you don't know what you're talking about. So the businessman leaned into the teacher and said, be honest, what do you make? The teacher's face got red, and he said, I suppose you're thinking of money. I don't earn much, but let me tell you what I make. I make children read, think, write, wonder, and talk about important things, such as the world and their role in it. I make them try things they think they can't do, work harder than they want to, and accomplish more than they thought possible. And whenever they do their best, I make them proud, capable, and worthy. I make them understand that the quality of their life will be determined by their choices, and I make them take responsibility for their actions. I make them appreciate the importance of integrity and honor in a world that too often shows little regard for either. I make them respect themselves and treat others with respect. I make them feel proud and grateful to live in America, where people are entitled to be treated fairly and with respect, and judged by their accomplishments and character, not by the color, creed, or the size of their bank account. Most of all, I make a difference. I don't just make a living, I make lives. So my thoughts on to teachers make the biggest difference in our children's lives, and our children are us. We were children, we became adults, and so will they. So I strongly encourage you to talk to your friends about this, get all the information that you need, and really work with us at Oregon Area Progressives. We are going to be working on this as we work on other things in this campaign leading up to the November election. So please join us in helping to pass this referendum. We really appreciate that. And thank you again for coming out. There are a few people who have slips, and so we'll be calling them up. We're going to take just a little bit of a break. Okay? Speak. We have several people who would like to speak this evening. We're going to start with Marilyn Townsend, and then Karen McKim, followed by Nancy Murphy. So Marilyn, then Karen, and then Nancy.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Townsend. I'm a lawyer in Dane County. Is this too loud?
You might want to go that way.
I was given instructions to hold it up here.
Yeah, just somebody get in front of that and you'll get feedback.
Right, testing. Is this okay? Sure. All right. My name is Marilyn Townsend. I'm an attorney in Dane County. I'm also a municipal court judge for the Village of Shorewood Hills. And I am running for Dane County Circuit Court Judge. The election is in April of 2017. Why do I want to be a judge? I'm a judge already in municipal court. I want to bring the values and my commitment to the justice system to the Dane County Circuit Court. My values are equality and fairness before the law. This is what I fought for as an attorney for 30 years. This is why I became an attorney. I represent workers and job-related problems. I represent folks who've been discriminated against based on arrest conviction records, based on race, age, sex, disability. When I became a judge, a municipal court judge, I have folks coming before me who are very poor, are very well off. I treat them all the same, and I will do that as a circuit court judge. During these times of racial unrest, discrimination occurs. I don't need to go to implicit bias training, as many of our judges on the Dane County Circuit Court judge do now. And I must say, I have heard some of them say, why do we need training on bias? Well, as a lawyer who's gone before juries and explained how all of us are biased, how it's present, how we have to guard against it, I think this is the time that someone with my experience as a civil rights lawyer, as a union lawyer, would bring experience to the Dane County Circuit Court judgeship that we don't currently have. Yesterday, I was very privileged to see Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor speak at the union in Madison. And one of the things she said, when you are deciding who to select as a judge, look at who's already there and who currently is not represented, because we need a variety of experience on the bench, and we currently do not have anyone with my 30 years of experience representing folks in discrimination issues, representing unions who are being discriminated against. I believe I can make a difference, and I ask for your vote in April of 2017. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen McKim. I'm running for Dane County Clerk. That's the county's chief elections officer. And with only 3 minutes to go, Main thing I want to tell you about is an opportunity tomorrow to observe the kind of election audit that is recommended by President Obama's Commission on Election Administration and that uses the digital images produced by our voting machines. Tomorrow morning, we're demonstrating the kind of audit that Dane County could be doing. 10 o'clock in the morning, Bethel Lutheran Church downtown. You can come participate in and see the kind of high-quality professional post-election auditing that Dane County will have in place when I'm elected county clerk. That's the main issue in the race. The main issue in the race has to do with our voting machines. They're computers that count our votes, and that's fine as long as you manage the computers sensibly and prudently. And every national elections administration authority, without exception, says you need to audit the election output before you declare election results final. It just makes sense. I mean, that cash register out there is reconciled at the end of the business day. We need to do the same with the computers inside our voting machines. And that's why I'm running for county clerk. There's a few other issues, and I'll stick around later if anyone has any questions. But again, Karen McKim, county clerk, high quality, nonpartisan, professional elections administration, and come to Bethel Lutheran Church tomorrow at 10 o'clock and see what it looks like. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Murphy, Town of Oregon, and I just realized in the last few days that Herb Cole had granted all of the teacher requests for small grants to their programs throughout, I think, the state, and it was so remarkable, and I just was so encouraged because there would be like $150 for special chairs for a couple kids, or some laptops, or some small amounts of whiteboards, or whatever it was. But these teachers, you know, would be spending their money otherwise, and they put in for these grant requests, and the Cole Foundation funded all of them. And I just want to say, wow, fantastic, a good shout out, and that's so great for so many kids in our state. Thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. So Nancy's handing out some little flyers to publicize a few things that Oregon Area Progressives have going on. First of all, we have there are two sides to this, and they're different things. This Thursday at 165 West Netherwood Road, we will be opening our coordinated campaign headquarters at 6 p.m. and you are invited to come. We'll have refreshments, and you'll get to see where we will be having canvases and phone banks and other things going on from now until the November 9th election. And then also on the bottom there is a listing of upcoming canvases and phone banks and voter registration activities that are happening from that location, along with my phone number and the coordinated campaign representative, Lori Locklear, who I just found out today is from my home state and is Lumbee, Indiana, and we have all these connections, which was just so ironic, but you don't really care about that. The next thing is that I just thought it was so incredible. And then on the other side, we are also sponsoring with United Fitchburg a showing of Where to Invade Next. It's Michael Moore's most recent movie. It's a comedy, but it's not funny. I mean, it's funny, but it's really not funny. But you'll enjoy it. How's that? And that is on September 22nd at the Fitchburg Public Library. They have a beautiful space there, along with a place for screening movies, and so you're invited to come to that. We are asking for a $5 donation, kind of a fundraiser, and also to cover the space. So please keep this. If you'd like to help us out, there's also a sign-up sheet at the back. And then I have three other people who would like to speak. So we have Marilyn and Ro and Charlie. So Marilyn, oh, and Gwen. Okay, Marilyn, Ro, Charlie, and Gwen. So oh, there you are. Gee, I've been talking to you.
Hi everybody, Marilyn McDowell again. This is again about this is about the upcoming teacher compensation referendum. And I really, really appreciated all the hard work the board, the administration did in the last couple of months to make this happen this fall. It was touch and go, but then they said, no, it's go. We're gonna do this. So, and really happy about that. So here are some good questions, all of those who are here and who are watching this at home. Questions. Who helps students when they get stuck on problems at school? Who understands the needs of students? Who stands up for high standards in the classes? Who cares that students achieve to their highest potential? Who stands shoulder to shoulder with parents, students, and administrators? Who spends their own money when for supplies when needed? Enter call. No. Who spends their own time offering extra help? We know the answer. You've said it all. It's teachers. I really, really encourage you to support the teacher compensation referendum for the Oregon School District November 8th. And I hope you will all get out and advocate as much as possible. This is critical. Outside of this, we know where the problem really lies. It lies with our legislature, and it lies with our governor, and it lies with ALEC. So these are the things that we need to change. We need to change them statewide. Most of us are cushy fine here, but you know, it's affecting our area now. But this is a statewide issue. We need to get candidates. We need to elect those good ones who are running this fall, statewide. Do what you can to support them. Go out there, look at these districts, and you know, do whatever you can. Thank you very much. Row.
Thank you, Carlene. Welcome, everybody. Roe Parker, Town of Oregon. I'm here to give you an update on Anderson Park Friends as well as Anderson Farm County Park. A couple exciting things that we've done. We applied for a grant last year. We received money to let people know about the park. Through our needs assessment, we found out a lot of people do not know. We've been working to create a brochure about the park that talks about the forest as well as our brand new prairie restoration. It's forest restoration and prairie planting. The prairie's doing great for first year prairie. Come on out to the park and visit this. The brochures are in the back for you. In addition, we have a summary of our events that are coming up. We will be working tomorrow. Please join us 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Come out, do some work early. We'll be there rain or shine most likely, so we'll make a decision as to how much we're going to do at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning out at the park. We've got our additional work days planned. We also work with other groups other than our members, and that we're going to be doing a 9/11 celebration workday type of remembrance activity on September 13th because of the scheduling. We're also working with Madison Edgewood students that are going to come out the last week of the month. So if you know of another community group that would like a community service project, please contact myself or Nancy. We would be glad to work with you. We'd also like to invite you to our annual meeting. We have the invitation postcard we've passed out. This is a membership meeting. We have a short business meeting to elect 2 positions to the board for 3-year terms, and we also will be soliciting input for 2017 and 2018 projects. So you can come to the meeting and help set the direction for the development of the park. In addition, we'll have a community potluck. A few people have highly rated it, and many of them are in the room here. A number of our members are here in the room, so it's a good chance to meet other neighbors and folks to talk about environmental issues. monarch butterflies, milkweed, bumblebees, trees, bluebird houses. We put up 14 this year. Screech owl nest, put up 2 of those. Come on out, we'd love to see you. The other event on there is November 12th. We're going to work with the Oregon Wellness Coalition and sponsor a candlelight walk in the Arthur Schultz Memorial Forest. So we are literally going to light up the forest trails, and you can come out at night and to walk the trails, as well as we will have bonfires or traditional hot dogs, s'mores. We're hoping for our local acoustic musicians that can join us and give us some entertainment. We'll be talking to them shortly. But we are going to have a lot of fun that night, and we have also put in a request to the Oscar Mayer organization. We're hoping to get a visit from the Oscar Mayer Wiener Mobile. That'll go along with the hot dog theme. Starts at 5 o'clock, going to be a lot of fun. We had over 200 people last year. We're expecting a great turnout, and we'll be glad to answer any other questions. Thank you.
I'll just add, when we do our work days, we do provide equipment for you, safety equipment. We have gloves and goggles, and we'll give you some safety training, and you don't have to bring any equipment as far as, you know, saws or clippers or anything. We have that all in our stash of stuff. We'll have some light refreshments, usually some maybe water juice and maybe a granola bar or 2 to help you sustain you while you're out helping us. So come on out. It's great. Bring some bug spray. Charlie is next, and he is our last person. Oh, Charlie and then Gwen.
Thank you, Nancy. It has been a rough year for finding sources of inspiration, particularly of late, but I came across something that I thought I would share that actually takes us back a little ways. I look forward to a great future for America, a future in which our country will match its military strength with our moral estate, its wealth with our wisdom, its power with our purpose. I look forward to an America which will not be afraid of grace and beauty, which will protect the beauty of our natural environment, which will preserve the great old American houses, squares, and parks of our national past, and which will build handsome and balanced cities for our future. I look forward to an America which will reward achievement in the arts as we award achievement in business and statecraft. I look forward to an America which will steadily raise the standards of artistic accomplishment, which will steadily enlarge cultural opportunities for all of our citizens, and I look forward to an America which commands respect throughout the world, not only for its strength, but for its civilization as well. And I look forward to a world which will be safe not only for democracy and diversity, but also for personal distinction. That was a speech by John Kennedy, October 1963, honoring Robert Frost. I thought we needed some sources of inspiration. And to share with you really quickly, a source of inspiration which I've had is a poem by my granddaughter, now 9-year-old granddaughter. It's called Stories. This is by Arden Caroline Gray. There's a book in my hands, I'm opening the page, and suddenly I'm riding a dragon through a field of words as my eyes move across the pages. It's like I'm climbing on the words. My eyes tell me where to go, how to get to the end of the book. When I get to the very last page, the very last word, I look around at my real world and I think to myself, how interesting things were through an author's eyes. Arden actually, for those of you who may have already heard, but was one of the students who they were encouraged to submit poetry to Madison Metro, and she now has a poem on the City of Madison bus.
I saw it, Charlie.
Well, that's great. I haven't seen it. I did. The poem is really short. It goes, birds calling, snow falling, my wide, wide world, my Madison.
Oh, cute. Nice.
This is a short poem about summertime that I wrote this year. I usually grow cherry tomatoes, but I didn't. but I did have the opportunity to take care of somebody's garden, and I took a lot of cherry tomatoes home. So, here we go. Cherry tomatoes. Cheery tomatoes, tasting of the sun in bright red and orange, lovely in their symmetrical growth of patterns. Henry the dog, jumping on the deck, to catch in his mouth, and I too. None makes it to the kitchen. He and I, laughing, dancing, and eating the cheery cherry tomatoes like sweet candy. Heavy on the limb, please make more so delicious roast with onions, garlic, eggplant, carrots, salt, and pepper. Yum. The only reason for summer to never end, those cheery cherry tomatoes, but never better without a washing. Just a dusting on a shirt tail, always better than the store. Cherry tomatoes, tasting of the sun in bright red and orange, lovely burst of summer in my mouth.
So we have a musical ending to our night. We have with us Robert Bradbury, who played for us ages and ages ago. We haven't seen him in a while, but he's here tonight, and he's going to play a little bit.
I just decided to come down on a whim. I've been playing a lot lately, and I've been playing the Madison Open Mics, but I'm self-conscious. So, I got some songs that I wanted to try out before I play them in front of a much larger audience.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, guinea pigs.
Yep, that's all you are.
Get your hands ready.
Yeah, our house, big royal house, the ocean bottom, you would walk like you being you. Come on, I see you. Come on, I see you. Come on in. And if you did come in. know you were home. Never be alone. Never be alone. If I were a house, I had to skip a verse because I messed up the rhythm. That's okay. If I were a house, you big old yellow house. Oh man, this is what I'm practicing. Bright wooden floors and heavy old door. Be quiet at night. There might be a street light. We weren't shining through our open windows, no. 'Cause we both need the dark when we're asleep. Otherwise I can't stop from turning when you're next to me. She's next to me. Now this big old yellow house is burning down. Now this big old yellow house, I burned it down. Just wanna put it out. If I were a house, there'd be a very quiet mouse and an old tabby cat who chases him, but she lets him live. 'Cause that's what you did. Yes, that's what you did. When I came back in. Work in progress. That picked up all, so I'm not going to just anymore.
You wanna?
No, this is fine. This is fine. Just like throw me off. Traveling north, thought to find you. Train was beating, that wind's in my eyes. Don't even know what I'll find if I get to you. Call out your name, love, don't be surprised. Traveling north, thought to find you. Train was beating, the wind's in my eyes. Don't even know what I'll find if I get to you. Call out your name, love, don't be surprised. It's so many miles along I left you. Won't even know what I would find if I get to you, but suddenly now, nowhere I belong. It's many 100 miles, it won't be long. Nothing at all in my head or to say to you. Only the beat of this train that I'm on. Nothing I've learned all my life on the way to you. One day our love won't go where you go. I do to someone there with you? Maybe someone, yes, that you've always known. How do I know that I can come well and give to you love with no one, and find you alone? What would I do if there's someone there with you? Maybe someone, well, that you've always known. How do I know that I can come well and give to you love with no one, and find you alone? It's so many miles alone since I left you. Don't even know what I would find if I get to you, but suddenly now I know where I belong. It's many hundred miles, it's many hundred miles, it's many hundred miles, and it won't be long. I got one more, okay?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for listening, everybody.
No problem.
It's good music. Cheers.
I'm gonna grab a different pick really quick. And not forget that one because it's like my second favorite. Not quite stiff enough though. Honey, I've got to know if you talked to God lately. Well, we could go tomorrow, or maybe earlier, or maybe earlier today. Answer all of your questions. Well, there's some things that he did not mention. Is that okay? Is that okay? Honey, I've got to know what you think of me when I'm standing across the hall. I'm anything at all to you, cause I really couldn't tell from the way that you've been treating me lately. Baby, is that okay? Honey, are you scared to die? Darling, do you love this life? Waiting for what you know for sure love is set to be. Oh, coming on after, and all of I gotta choose. Either way, it's just the one life we all lose. I think it's quite travel, this room in which I sit where it's like the only thing lacking was a conversation, and I know that she will hang on to all of her steady convictions. Honey, I've gotta know. Honey, I've gotta know. You talk to God lately. We can go tomorrow, but was it earlier today? The answer all of your questions, are there some things that he does not mention? Is that okay? Honey, I gotta know. You think of me when I'm standing right across this hall. I mean anything at all to you, cause I really couldn't tell from the way that you've been treating me lately. Baby, is that okay? Is that okay? Honey, are you scared to die? Darling, do you love this life? You're just waiting for what you know for sure. Well, it's said to be. Oh, we're coming on after, and all what I gotta choose. Either way, it's just the one life. It's just the one life we all lose. I think it's quite travel in this room in which I sit where it's like the only thing lacking was a conversation, and I know that she will hang on to all of her steady convictions. Honey, I've gotta know. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So nice to have you back here.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
So this brings us to the end of this September Oregon Area Progressives Community Open Mic. I want to really remind you to please do everything that you can with us during this election season. The little flyers have the canvases on the back, and there's also a sign-up sheet. We have canvases, phone banks, and voter registration things going on, and we could really use as much help as possible. Thanks so much, and have a good night.